What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So now that we are 3 days since the New York Islanders' historic lottery jump to first overall, as well as Utah jumping, I thought it'd be a fun idea to ask you guys for some mock trades regarding lottery picks, because when looking at the top 21 that we have set in stone right now, I feel like more so than other years, especially considering it's not that loaded of a draft, we could potentially see a lot of movement within this. The New York Islanders at first, not your traditional rebuilding team. Utah, 89-point team, picking fourth overall with a bunch of cap space. Maybe Boston wants to move up. Maybe the Pittsburgh Penguins, if they also get the Rangers pick, maybe they want to get crazy. So we're going to be going through some of your hypothetical lottery trades. Let's get into it. And up first, we got this from Tyler. The Islanders send the first overall pick to the Predators for fifth overall, Vegas's pick, and Tampa Bay's pick. When looking at this, I am not that big in trading down in the NHL draft. When looking at it, when you have a top 10 pick, I don't like the idea of picking up like late first round picks. In the NFL draft, I think that makes a lot of sense because guys are ready to play immediately and are on cheap contracts. I wouldn't hate that deal because, again, that would be like the 25th and 28th overall pick just to move from first to fifth. If they don't truly believe that Schaefer or Misa are in like a tier of their own compared to the 3 through 8 that I do agree that there's not that big of a tier between those guys, I wouldn't hate a deal like this, and especially for Nashville that has a large quantity of a prospect pool while the Islanders don't. It makes sense for both parties. If I was the general manager, though, I would just draft Matthew Schaefer. I wouldn't hate Hagens, Denoyer, Frundell, Martone at fifth, and then you pick up maybe some potential fallers in the late first round, and it ends up being a net positive. But me personally, I'm just draft. When there's a clear top 2 like there is this year, in my opinion, I know people disagree, I think you just draft one of those guys. But it's a very solid hypothetical, and I think just in terms of value, it makes a lot of sense. Next up, we got this from Schroeder, the 16th, 17th, and a prospect for Sidney Crosby. And yeah, at this point, I still don't think Sidney Crosby is going anywhere. I think he's going to retire a Pittsburgh Penguin. But at this point, is it more likely that if he wanted to go somewhere, he'd go to Montreal, technically like his hometown Canadian team, even though he's from Nova Scotia, than say the Colorado Avalanche that have not really got it done the last 3 seasons? I think if you're Pittsburgh and Crosby was willing to, if he said, okay, I've accomplished everything, now you can go trade me to an up-and-coming team, I think if you're Pittsburgh, you definitely do that. If you're Montreal, I know that it's awesome to get Sidney Crosby, but he is 37, 38 years old. Is your window the next 2 to 3 years? Even though I think Sid could probably play till he's 43 years old. I think it's a fair deal. Not sure Montreal should completely blow their load for that for like a 37, 38-year-old when I think their window is really going to open up in 2028, 2029. But again, very good in terms of value for a legit stud. Add a prospect on top of that, and it makes sense. We got a similar trade like that, the 16th, 17th, and Michael Hage for Matt Barzal. When looking at this, obviously Sidney Crosby is a much better player than Matt Barzal, but Matt Barzal is 28 years old compared to like 38. I think that would also make sense in terms of that second line center behind Nick Suzuki. Crosby would obviously be the first line center if he got traded to Montreal right now. But yeah, this could be a solid add. Might be giving up a little bit too much. You could honestly probably get rid of Michael Hage or get rid of the 17th overall pick. And if I'm a New York Islanders fan, I think that's probably a package I'm ready to accept for Matt Barzal at this point. A solid first-round pick, a top 30, top 35 prospect. My Islanders aren't going to do that because I think they're going to try to retool instead of rebuild, and Matt Barzal is the face of the franchise. But again, in value, I think you guys are killing it at this point, and I think that's pretty solid. Next up from Jason, Philadelphia gets the 4th overall pick. Utah gets the 6th and a 2025 third-round pick. I think a third, it would definitely have to be at least a second-round pick to move from 4th to 6th overall. I agree that there's not a big gap between, again, 3rd through like 8th in this draft, but you're not getting away with a third-round pick. If you said their own second-round pick, I don't know what exactly that would be, 36th, 37th overall, I think that makes sense. For Utah, if they don't love somebody at 4th overall when they're on the clock and they say, okay, we have 3 or 4 guys in the same tier. Meanwhile, if Philadelphia is set on like a James Hagens at 4th overall, makes sense. And Philadelphia needs to lock up a center in this draft. And at 6th overall, they might not have the best options if guys go off the board. Next up, sticking with Utah, this is the one that has been all over my feed. Canada Y33 says Utah sends the 4th overall pick to the New York Islanders for Noah Dobson in Colorado's first. When looking at this, it really depends. What does the Islanders think about Noah Dobson? If they think that he's a legit number 1 center, they probably go Michael Misa 1st overall and keep Noah Dobson. If they draft Matthew Schaefer, or if they intend to draft Matthew Schaefer, then Noah Dobson definitely becomes expendable. I think the Islanders might have to add even like an additional second round pick for this. It could be our 2026 or this year's second round pick, just because looking at it, like Alex DeBrincat back in 2022, he got the 7th overall pick in the 39th overall pick. So for 4th overall, Dobson, you are selling a little bit low considering he had a bit of a down year after a 70-point season. How does Utah think of Sean Durzi on the right side, John Marino going forward? Thankfully, they got Durzi locked up pretty cheap. And are they willing to give Dobson the 8-year, $8 million contract that he's asking for? And does he kind of do some of the things that Mikhail Sergachev brings to the table? But yeah, Utah has all the salary cap in the world to afford him. If they're very high on Dobson, I think this makes sense for both parties because especially where Utah is selecting, it's going to be very forward heavy. What does Utah have in spades? Young forwards. And Dobson definitely still fits their core. He's 25 years old. So I think that this deal makes a lot of sense. I think the Islanders might have to add just a little bit more because in fairness, that Colorado first round pick is probably going to be at best 22nd, 23rd overall. And Noah Dobson is an RFA at this point. It's not like you have him on some fantastic deal going forward. You're going to have to give him a sizable amount, especially if you're trading draft capital to get him. He's going to have a shit ton of leverage. So you get that sign and trade done potentially. From Frank, another Noah Dobson one. Noah Dobson, the Islanders 2026 first round pick, unprotected, for the 2nd overall pick. If we put a top 3 protection on this, I would maybe do it. If we just get Misa and Schaefer, and again, I don't think that the organization's down for like a full rebuild, but if you get Misa, Schaefer, Yzerman, Ritchie, that might be one of the best big fours in terms of U21 guys, or yeah, U21, Ritchie's only 20, in the entire NHL. I would be down for that. If you're San Jose, yeah, you get Dobson and that Islanders pick. If it was unprotected, I would definitely do it if I'm San Jose because the Islanders next season, they should be a decent team, but probably miss the playoffs again. So that would be balls on the table by a new Islanders general manager to do that trade. And also, Noah Dobson makes a lot of sense for the San Jose Sharks. They don't have really anything on the right side. So yeah, you guys are really cooking right now with some of these trades. Next up from Julian, Montreal moves up to take Desnoyers. And yeah, when talking about the 16th and 17th overall pick, Desnoyers sitting there at 7th, 8th, still available. It's like Seattle on the clock who don't really want to select another forward. They want to go more so defense, and maybe they want to trade back. I think that makes all the sense in the world. I think Desnoyers is a better prospect than Michael Hage, but I still like Michael Hage a lot. I think between those two, you're going to find your second line center. One of those guys are going to hit to a decent degree, and he's from Quebec, obviously, from right outside Montreal, I believe. So, yeah, I think Montreal, as we talked about in the mock draft, I would not take both selections at 16th or 17th, whether that's trading for immediate help, whether that's trading up in this draft. They need to be aggressive. They still have a top 5 prospect pool in the NHL, especially in a draft that is a little bit shallow after like 12th, 13th, or even after 8th overall. Yeah, I think I would probably be definitely looking up to trade for one of the top guys if there is a guy that falls a decent amount. Johnny says the Islanders trade the 1st overall to the Hawks for the 3rd overall and Frank Nazar as well as a 2nd round pick. This is intriguing because if they're set on James Higgins, if they want to get the Long Island native, inspire hope from the fan base that way, this wouldn't be that bad of a package. Frank Nazar, although he is also a little bit undersized like James Higgins, just put up half a point per game in his draft year +3. And if you're getting a 2nd round pick, let's say it's even next year's 2nd round pick, that's probably at best or at worst 40th overall from the Chicago Blackhawks. So I would definitely be interested in that. If Chicago just thought that there was such a big gap between Michael Misa and James Higgins, and they thought Nazar is expendable if we get Misa, obviously, he's going to be our 2nd line center of the future. So that's also a very interesting trade down possibility for the New York Islanders. Next up, Canada Man 18. The Flames 2 first-round picks and Rasmus Anderson and a B prospect. Let's call it like Jacob Battaglia, although I like him a decent amount, for one of the top 5 picks. And yeah, similarly to the Dobson trade, this could maybe work for a Utah hockey club. I had some people saying just like one of their picks in Rasmus Anderson or like Rasmus Anderson for the 8th overall pick. Rasmus Anderson doesn't have that much value. He has 1 year left. If Rasmus Anderson has one more year at like $4.5 million, and then you got to give him some kind of bag. But I think trading up, I think attaching Rasmus Anderson with one of your picks could be could go well for the Calgary Flames. I think would make a lot of sense. I personally wouldn't give Rasmus Anderson some kind of 8-year 7.5, 7.75. I think that's what he's going to get after Neil Pionk got 6 years, $7 million. That contract's going to be big. He did have a bit of a down year this year. I know you don't want to sell him on a down year, but going into next year, he will not have the same value. I would definitely look at something like that for Calgary. I don't know about a top 5 pick, but yeah, I think one of their firsts in Rasmus Andersson for a team. I think the New York Rangers could maybe make some sense at 12th overall if they trade the 22nd or 23rd overall pick and Rasmus Andersson for 12th and then maybe like a young roster player. I think that would be a big, good deal by the Calgary Flames. Next up from Danny, Raquel and Carlson at 50% retained, only $5 million to Utah for 4th overall. I think in terms of value, this is a solid deal. In terms of timeline, I don't love it. This is an aggressive move. And again, although Utah would have the salary cap to facilitate this move, Raquel's 33, Carlson's 34, 35. Like, is Utah's window the next 2 to 3 years? And I know that those aren't bad contracts. I think Raquel has 3 years left at $5 million, and Carlson would also have 2 years left at $5 million. I would definitely entertain maybe trading the 4th overall for Raquel in the 11th. Maybe you throw in something on top of that on Utah's end. I would definitely be down for one of those guys. I don't know about both. I don't know about being that aggressive with guys already in their mid-30s for the most part. But yeah, I think Pittsburgh should definitely to potentially move up in this trade or pick up a late lottery 17th to 20th overall pick, trade Raquel, trade Erik Karlsson. I think that can make a lot of sense. Don't love Utah quite as the fit for both of them. For one of them, for Erik Karlsson, sure. For Raquel to beef up their forward core and get a little bit more experience, sure. Both of them, not quite as high as you are per se. Next up from Barra 20, Vancouver, the 15th overall pick for Jared McCann. How funny would that be? Jared McCann, who was drafted by the Vancouver Canucks, didn't really. They traded him before he ended up panning out. I think in terms of value, this makes all the sense in the world. Jared McCann has 2 years left at $5 million. Yeah, $5 million. That's a next level steal on an actual solid team. He's 30 and 30, maybe even 35 and 35. He scored 40 in Seattle in 2023. So he's worth it. If I'm Vancouver, man, I'm not sure I'm trading away my first round pick this year. This organization is in such influx after just this wild season. I don't know what they're going to look like next season. I think you start building up the prospect pool, then say betting on Elias Pettersson to have a bounce back season with Jared McCann. So I'm personally not for that. If I'm the Seattle Kraken, I probably would do that though. Next up, we got another Rasmus Andersson one from Cameron. Buffalo trades the 9th overall pick for Samuelsson, a 3rd to Calgary for Andersson, and a 5th. I think this one makes a little bit more sense than a Utah Hockey Club one, considering it's the 9th overall pick versus the 4th overall pick. And Buffalo badly needs right-handed defensemen. There's not a ton on the trade market right now or even in free agency. Outside of Rasmus Andersson, he roughly fits their age core more so than Utah, who's still like coming out of a rebuild. Like Buffalo, Tage Thompson and Rasmus Dahlin are their best players. I know they have a lot of young players, but he fits from that degree. And yeah, they have nothing on the right side. Samuelsson is pretty young. I think he's still only like 24, 25 years old. So Calgary gets a little bit younger, gets the 9th overall pick. We might have to send like a 3rd or a 2nd round pick on top of that. I'm not sure Andersson is basically solely worth the 9th overall pick because I don't think Samuelsson really has that much value. But yeah, I think that Buffalo being in the Rasmus Andersson sweepstakes potentially, which in fairness, Craig Conroy has not really said I'm going to trade Rasmus Andersson at this point. But I think that that's definitely a target that they should definitely be going after because of their need on the right side and because Kevin Adams is fighting for his job at this point. It's shocking that he still has a job, but he definitely needs to improve from that degree. Another one we got is not far near, says Sharks trade 2026 first round pick for the Islanders 1st overall. This is another juicy one. It basically flips the one that we did prior. I would probably be down for this. It's tough because I think the top 4 of next year is probably better than the 1st overall this year. Still a lot to go. Ryan Rubrick, I don't know. Vigo Bjork and Stenberg, and obviously McKenna I'd probably rather have than Misa or Schaefer. I think if you're the Islanders, you just take the 1st overall. If they add on top of this, because I think if the Sharks did this, they'd obviously be very aggressive this offseason in terms of not making the playoffs next year, but being a 75 to 80 point team, so they're not potentially giving up Gavin McKenna at 1st overall. This would obviously have to be an unprotected pick, But yeah, that is very intriguing, and I like the controversy that comes with that. 69 peace sign. I can't believe I just said that. CBJ trades picks for immediate talent. And yeah, they have the 14th and the 20th overall pick. Similarly to Montreal, for the steps that they took this season, I would definitely understand trading for immediate help. I think maybe like a Jared McCann actually would make a lot of sense if they gave up the 20th overall pick or the 14th overall pick for him to kind of aid in their young forwards, potentially get a right-handed defenseman. I am definitely for that, whether it's with the 14th or 20th pick. Next up, Carter Taylor, 74. San Jose's first for Chicago's first, and Oliver Moore. I'm personally not that high on Oliver Moore. I think he's going to have a long NHL career just because he is such a damn good skater, and that is needed in the NHL. That's going to provide you with the floor. But it's not worth the difference, in my opinion, between Michael Misa and James Higgins, Frundell, Denoyer, Mortone. I'm not saying there's no way that those guys that Misa, there's no possibility that Misa is worse, ends up having a worse career than those guys. But I just think if you're San Jose, you take Misa and you don't really worry about it. I'm not sure Oliver Moore really moves the needle that much in terms of moving back a pick when there is kind of a clear top two in this year's draft. Theo says a really interesting one. The Flyers get second overall. The Sharks get sixth overall. Cam York, who I'm decently high on, and the Ducks' second round pick, I believe that pick is like 40th overall. I think that this could make sense if San Jose is really not that high on Michael Misa. I know I just said like I would take Michael Misa, but Cam York would immediately become like their best defenseman next year, and he's still only 24 years old. Cam York is a very intriguing piece for me, and right now I would give up a late first round pick for sure for a guy like Cam York. So this is basically the 6th overall pick, the 24th overall pick, and the 40th overall pick to move back to 6th overall, still get the 6th overall pick. If Cam York was on the right side, I would really, really be interested in doing it. He is a lefty, but still, I think that that's very intriguing, and it really just comes down to what the San Jose Sharks think of Michael Misa, and Matthew Schaefer could hypothetically fall to them at second overall. Next up, San Jose trades about 5 spots down and takes Victor Eklund. Yeah, as we just talked about, maybe that's the Flyers deal. I wouldn't take Eklund at 6th overall because I think one of Frundell, Denoyer, Martone, Higgins would be available at 6th overall. But if they called up like Buffalo at 9th overall or at 8th overall, who's 8th overall? Let me pull that up real quick. At 8th overall, Seattle really wants Michael Misa or something like that. I think that could make sense. And you would definitely love to see the brother connection of the Eklunds go at it. And then lastly, speaking of Buffalo and San Jose, I forgot that I had this pulled up. The Sharks trade the 2nd overall pick for Owen Power in the 9th overall pick. This would really just come down to what do the San Jose Sharks think of Owen Power? Do you think that he's going to live up to his $8 million contract, become a top 20 defenseman, even if he's a top 20 defenseman at $8.15 million or whatever it is? That would be a steal of a contract. They do have Dickinson on the left side, but we agree, Owen Power ahead of Dickinson at this point. He's NHL proven, has an NHL floor. I think that could make sense to a degree if Buffalo says, yeah, we don't really believe in Josh Norris. We don't love our center prospects. Let's just get Matthew Schaefer or let's get Owen Power or even Matthew Schaefer, who's younger and not on some kind of massive contract. Could make sense for both parties. Also, I'm putting this in now while I'm editing. I forgot to mention at 9th overall, they could get like Radim Merca. Although they would be giving up Michael Misa, they'd be getting Owen Power, getting Radim Merca for their right side, and just be set at forward, defense, goalie, rebuild complete. If I'm San Jose, though, again, I'm sticking with Michael Misa. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about some of these trades? I'll probably, in a couple weeks from now, cook up my own 10 to 15 mock trades. I might even run this back in like a month from now, but I'll be seeing the next one. Peace.